Hey everyone, Tin Man here, and Dota Underlords has just released two tiny updates, so let's talk about them. This first one came out earlier today, and it was the first set of patch notes, although really there was nothing noteworthy about it. They weren't including any changes or any bug fixes or really anything that you come to expect in patch notes. Instead, they were talking more about their design philosophy, and they specifically referenced the Big One update that we've kind of known about for a while as a big update that should be coming that's going to include the playable Underlord mechanic, whatever that may be. I know there's been speculation about kind of like a hero effect, kind of like an outside the game kind of modifier on how you play, which is going to be like the big namesake of the game. Obviously, the game is named Underlords, as well as new heroes and new alliances. And we've known this has been coming for a while, but we didn't really know exactly when it was going to happen. And this is our first semblance of a date. We know that this will happen now in the first half of October. It would also include duos team mode, which I'm really excited about, playing duos with friends. So we now know that this will come out in roughly the first half of October, but admittedly that's a little bit later than people were hoping. A lot of people were speculating, oh, maybe something's going to come out this week or next week. Seems like we're at least 3 to 4 weeks off. So what else did they mention in this update? They've said that not long after that, they'll have the final stop, which will include 2 more Underlords. So they'll release with 4 Underlords, update the Battle Pass, the City Crawl, which I don't think we know anything about that other than, maybe it's some type of a campaign mode or an adventure mode or something along those lines. And it'll be the official beginning of Season 1, where presumably ranks will have some type of a reset, and the Battle Pass will obviously become the Season 1 Battle Pass. So that'll be pretty exciting, although we are a little bit ways off. So we're kind of looking at the end of October for that all happen. Here they give us a little bit of a preview of the updated interface that they'll have with Essex, who is supposedly one of the Underlords that'll be playable. And there's this little thing here that says Turf Control 28 out of 36. Don't have any idea what that means, but presumably it's some type of achievement progress or some type of maybe something to do with the City Crawl game mode, something along those lines. So really excited to see what kind of new stuff they put out here. And that was it for this first update, and everyone was left kind of scratching their head thinking, that's it? You didn't actually change anything or update anything? Even though we knew there was going to be a patch today, and we thought, well, something's got to change. So luckily, about 3 hours after this came out, this was at 7:44, they updated a bigger update, and this will actually include some gameplay and hero changes. So this will be more impactful on the meta, which was getting, I won't say really stale, but some people maybe viewed it that way, that it was getting a little bit repetitive with the same 1 or 2 builds really dominating the game. Specifically the 4-cost good stuff build that I've made some videos and guides on. That was really a little bit too strong in the meta, and some nerfs were well deserved on that. So here we find the first nerf is reduce the chance of finding tier 4 units by 5% from levels 6 to 8. And this was kind of the big time when you wanted to be getting these tier 4 units. At level 6, it used to be 10%, so now it's down to 5%. And then it would go up to 15, now it's down to 10, and so on at level 6, 7, and 8. This will make getting things like 2-star Doom, Alchemist, Necrophos, Kunkka, Bone Druid, all of those kind of key, powerful, good stuff units, it's going to make them a lot harder to get up to 2-star at a reasonable amount of time. It's a really substantial nerf at level 6, because at level 6 it only was 10%, so now it's down to 5%. That's, half odds. Whereas at level 8, I think it used to be 20%, and now it's down to 15, which is still significant, but it's not as jarring as the 10% down to 5%. So what this may mean is that if these kind of 4-cost builds are still going to be good, they're going to have to get to a higher level before really rerolling a lot. They'll really have to get up to level 8 or even level 9 before they can really start aggressively rerolling, trying to find those upgraded 4-cost units. Other than that, they also nerfed a couple of heroes. Arc Warden was probably the biggest offender. He was arguably the best unit in the game for the past patch, and his maximum health has been decreased by 100 at 1-star, decreased by 200 at 2-star, and 400 at 3-star. So I think that's a fair nerf, and it's actually kind of doubly impactful because Arc Warden's effective health was really double that, because you have Arc Warden himself plus the clone, and now both of them lose 100 health at 1 star, so effectively he lost 200 health. And honestly, the more I'm talking through this, that's really big. That is a big nerf. His damage output's still going to be the same, and I know in a previous patch they changed it so that he has this cooldown on casting a new copy. Once one copy is killed, there'll be a 3-second delay until he creates a new copy. So all of those combined maybe knock Arc Warden off of the top perch in the metagame, and we may start to see him kind of drifting into a, yeah, good to have, but maybe not a dominant unit like he's always been, ever since his rework, really. Enigma. This was the prime pairing with Arc Warden, as Enigma plus Arc Warden would give you both the Shaman and the Primordial Alliance, and both of them were just really strong on their own. But combined, obviously, they were better. So the Ace effect now, it used to drain mana when an opponent was hexed, silenced, or stunned. Now it simply prevents them from gaining mana. It says gaining mana from attacks, and I haven't actually checked this, whether this is all attacks that they make, or if they take damage and they still gain mana. I don't know for sure. But regardless, it's definitely a substantial nerf to Enigma. Enigma was arguably too good and too unfun, where it's like, you know, okay, you're both playing some kind of CC unit, maybe Tidehunter, Kunkka, Disruptor, something along those lines, and whichever one of them gets to cast first. Oh, my Tidehunter cast first. He's going to cast, stun your whole board, and drain all of their mana, and then suddenly they are just never going to cast because they're at 0 mana, and by the time they gain it back up, they've been killed off. That was really unfun and led to very kind of coin flippy, snowballing kind of fights where it's like, oh, I got my CC off first, I win the whole fight by 20 damage. Or you got yours off first, I lose by 20 damage. And that was not fun for anybody. So this is definitely substantial nerf on this combo of Arc Warden and Enigma. It's hard to say whether or not they'll still be the best meta composition, because there was really no other buffs. There was a slight buff to Assassins we'll talk about in a second. But I struggle to see what's going to knock these guys off their perch, or this kind of good stuff off of its perch of being one of the best builds in the meta. Disruptor, the ace effect for the Warlock ace, now reads that the Warlock Alliance applies to 1 target per alliance level. So this is really a nerf at if you're just running 2 Warlocks, or in the case of Disruptor, sometimes you were running 3. You run 2 Warlocks plus a Disruptor, and then all of your Warlocks would form that link with 3 targets, and you get the bonus healing out of that. Now, if you only have 1 tier of the Warlock Alliance, he's only going to target 1 unit. It's literally a non-existent ace effect if you only have 1 tier of the Warlock Alliance. But if you have 2 tiers, it's now exactly identical to what it used to be. And if for some reason you somehow have all 3 tiers, you have 6 Warlocks, now this is actually a buff. The problem is, I don't think I've ever seen someone get all 6 Warlocks in this most recent patch since ace units were introduced. It's just never really been worthwhile, but that's a really substantial buff when it does happen. You now get 3 targets rather than just 2 like you would have right now. So maybe some kind of 6 Warlock build gets developed. I doubt it, especially because it's so heavily dependent on getting Disruptor, which is just far from guaranteed. I know from all the times I tried to force playing Brawny and just never found a Disruptor, getting your ace effect is far from guaranteed. So I wouldn't count on this being a meta build anymore. Or at least, you know, not getting up to 6 Warlocks would not be a meta build. But I think that's a fair nerf to him, though, because Disruptor was a little bit too dominant. I would have liked to see a little bit of a change to his silence effect. I think maybe that silence duration could be reduced a little bit. Seems a little bit oppressive. But I guess the nerf to Enigma, where these two made a potent combination, where a Disruptor would silence them and then also burn off all their mana. Since you're nerfing that effect, maybe that kind of indirectly nerfs Disruptor, and maybe it's okay. Other changes here, Warlock Alliance, the healing on it has been nerfed as well. At the first tier, it's still 50%, but at the second tier, it went from 80% down to 70%, and then a big nerf at 6 Warlocks from 130 down to 100. So maybe my 6 Warlock build is already dead in the water, not just because it's relying on getting the ace effect, but also because they nerfed the healing rather substantially as well. But out of all these nerfs, there is one buff to the Assassin Alliance, and Assassins were definitely the weakest performing alliance. Pretty much the only viable Assassins were the magic damage dealing Assassins. Queen of Pain, Morphling, and Sand King were like the main viable Assassins in like an Assassin, Primordial, Mage kind of composition. And that really, they were just there because they dealt magic damage. Oh, and Viper as well. And occasionally you would see like Slark pop up as a scaled bonus if you get like a Mask of Madness or something. See Slark paired with Tidehunter or something along those lines. But outside of those, you would pretty much never see any of the other Assassins. Bounty Hunter, Phantom Assassin, Templar Assassin, none of like the typical what you would think of as an Assassin. So now they're Critical Strike. Whenever they do crit, the Assassins wound the target and reduce healing done by 50%/100%. So that depends if you have the 3 Assassin Alliance or the 6 Assassin Alliance. 100% healing reduction? That's massive. They do need to crit on the target, so it's not going to be like guaranteed all the time have healing reduction. And I'm actually curious, does this say the healing reduced? Does that mean that healing that the unit does or that the unit receives? By the wording, I would bet this means that it's healing that is done, but I think practically it would probably be healing received. It would kind of be like a grievous wounds type debuff for those of you who are familiar with Teamfight Tactics or League of Legends. They have abilities that reduce healing. You know, whenever an ability deals damage to them, the target who took the damage now receives less healing. That may be what this is, and I think that's a really significant buff to Assassins. One of their biggest struggles was if they don't get a big burst on you, they're just going to be able to out heal, and that made Assassins versus Knights a very bad matchup because the Knights would not get burst down because they have the damage reduction shield. And then one of their Warlocks cast a heal, and suddenly they'll heal back up, and your Assassins are dead before they can actually fight through that extra health total. So this will be interesting to see if Assassins can kind of come back into the meta, especially with, you know, nerfs on Warlocks, nerf on Disruptor, Enigma, Arc Warden, and on the tier 4 units, which Assassins were never really dependent on tier 4 units. They were much more dependent on getting 3 stars on Phantom Assassin, Slark, Queen of Pain, Morphling, units like that, getting 3 stars rather than getting 4 cost units. So I think this is a good overall adjustment to the meta that some people were definitely complaining this good stuff build was a little bit too dominant, and it's good to see it taken down a peg here, even though it kind of feels like they released this tiny update and then they forgot to do balance changes, and they realized that everyone was kind of freaking out about it and they panicked and made some balance changes. But I like the changes that they made, and I'm definitely excited to get in and try to play some more Assassins. It's one of my favorite builds. So thank you so much for watching, and please do like and subscribe. Also, if you're interested, you can check me out on Twitch. I stream there occasionally at twitch.tv/tidman354. You can check the link in the description below. I'm trying to get on a more regular streaming schedule, but just go drop a follow there. You'll get notified when I go live. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.